Let's jump right into this explainer. I want you to picture this. You're driving, say, 40 miles off the main highway, and your GPS, it shows absolutely nothing. Just a quiet, completely ordinary-looking lake. It looks super peaceful, right? Maybe a great spot to cast a fishing line. But you see that stillness, it's a total illusion. It's actually hiding a 70-year-old, highly classified secret that the government spent decades trying to bury. So today we're going to unpack exactly how an entire community just vanished literally overnight, leaving behind a massive mystery that researchers are only just now beginning to piece together.
Because the real question here isn't about the lake itself. It's about what lies 80 feet straight down below the surface. We aren't just talking about mud or rocks or, a few sunken trees. 80 feet beneath this perfectly normal-looking water lies an entire 1800s town. I mean, complete houses, streetlights, brick foundations, a full, living community that was wiped completely off every official map. For decades, locals treated it like folklore, but the documents and the data we're going to look at today, they prove it was very, very real.
Section 1. A town purposely erased. How a community disappeared overnight.
Now, to even begin to understand how a cover-up of this scale happens, we kind of have to look at the history of this unsuspecting little mill town. For generations, it was just an unremarkable, quiet place. It had a general store, a schoolhouse, a rail line, the exact kind of town that history books never really mention. And the residents there had absolutely zero clue that their homes were already marked for total erasure under what official records vaguely called a regional water management initiative. We're talking about a population of 900 people. 900 people living perfectly normal lives, right up until late in the year when federal surveyors suddenly showed up out of nowhere. No public notice, no town hall meetings beforehand, just men in dark suits, stepping off trains, driving stakes into the ground and taking measurements, while the townsfolk just watched warily.
So the really crucial thing to understand here is the unnaturally fast timeline of the eviction and demolition. Surveyors arrive unannounced late in the year. By the following spring, the town is formally told they have one single month to pack up their entire lives and get out. 1 month. Within weeks, the place turns into a literal ghost town. Doors were left wide open, furniture was left behind. Some families were in such a frantic rush they didn't even grab their photographs. And then, bam, the demolition phase begins immediately. Bulldozers and dynamite literally clear the streets. This wasn't some drawn-out, standard civic project. This was a rapid, forced, and highly calculated eviction.
Section 2. The Sonar Anomaly. Discovering what was left behind.
For over half a century, this town pretty much existed only in memory and rumor. You'd have local fishermen telling stories about chimneys snagging their lines, or a church steeple popping up during severe drought years. But last year, a team of underwater archaeologists decided to finally stop guessing. They brought in the heavy equipment, ran a full modern sonar survey, and wow, the results were absolutely stunning. The sonar pinged these grid-like structures with completely unnatural right angles. When researchers cross-referenced these blocky outlines with the original town plat map from the 1800s, it was a perfect match. Main Street, the schoolhouse, the church foundation, all of it was there. But, and this is a huge turning point in our explainer, there was one single, unidentified reinforced structure set totally apart from the rest of the buildings. It was massive, buried way deeper into the lake bed, and most importantly, it did not exist on any historical town map.
Section 3. A redacted paper trail. Searching for the truth in the archives.
When the researchers saw that massive anomaly on the sonar, this structure that so clearly didn't belong in a 19th century mill town, they knew they had to pivot. They stopped looking at the bottom of the lake and started digging into federal archives to figure out what those demolition crews were actually making room for. And the financial discrepancy they uncovered, staggering. 3 times. The reservoir project's approved budget was nearly triple what a standard dam of its size should have cost back then. 3 times the money for a simple little regional water management initiative? Come on. When budgets inflate that drastically for public infrastructure, it instantly raises massive red flags about what's actually being bought and what exactly is being constructed out of public view.
So, trying to get to the bottom of that bloated budget, researchers filed a Freedom of Information Act request back in 2019, asking for the original engineering reports for the reservoir. But the request was flatly denied. The official reason, stamped on the paperwork? National security. Just let that sink in for a second. National security concerns being cited over a 70-year-old local public reservoir project. It immediately begs the question, right? What exactly are they protecting down there?
Actually getting these documents was an intense battle. First, that 2019 FOIA request gets denied, which kicks off 3 exhausting years of legal fights with federal agencies. Finally, a federal lawsuit literally forces them to release the documents. But here is where the mystery genuinely deepens. The document they finally got was heavily redacted. I mean, almost completely blacked out. However, a few surviving unredacted lines revealed something absolutely crucial. There was a second contractor on the project, an untraceable private engineering firm that mysteriously dissolved just 2 years after the reservoir was finished, with totally untraceable corporate officers, a literal phantom contractor.
Section 4. Competing theories. What was actually built at the bottom of the lake? Okay, so with a phantom contractor, a tripled budget, and this deep reinforced structure showing up on Sonar, local historians have put together some pretty strong competing theories. Let's look at them side by side. Theory 1 posits that this was a Cold War-era facility. Think about the timeline here. The early to mid-1950s saw tons of federal projects, like dams, tunnels, and old mines quietly repurposed for secret defense research or storage, perfectly disguised as boring flood infrastructure. On the flip side, we have Theory 2, government fraud. Now this one is maybe less cinematic, but it is equally troubling. It suggests the intense secrecy was never about defense at all. Instead, those heavily inflated budgets were just lining the pockets of corrupt contractors and officials, and the government wiped an entire town off the map just to cover up a massive scheme of bureaucratic negligence and fraud.
What makes both of these theories so incredibly compelling is that this wasn't just some isolated incident. Researchers have actually identified a highly suspicious pattern spanning at least 4 other flooded towns across the country from the exact same decade, showing the exact same characteristics. They all share the identically rushed evacuation timeline, the exact same heavily inflated project budgets, and the exact same sealed or redacted official documentation. Whatever happened at our lake, the data strongly suggests it was part of a broader, synchronized, nationwide strategy.
And to add a little more weight to that corruption theory, consider this detail. In 1958, a state audit into the project's finances was officially opened. So clearly somebody was suspicious back then too. But it was abruptly closed within just 6 weeks, and absolutely no public findings were ever released. It was just quickly and quietly buried, leaving the true financial workings of that phantom contractor completely in the dark.
Section 5. The unanswered questions. The human cost of a classified secret.
Now, behind the incredible Sonar anomalies, the blacked-out budgets, and all these grand historical theories, we absolutely cannot forget the human element here. This was a real town, and today the descendants of those 900 displaced residents still visit the edge of that quiet lake, searching for closure and answers about a home that was literally stolen from their families. The devastation they experienced was absolute. As one quote puts it, no appeal process, no paper trail. The financial hit was profound and permanent. Descendants say compensation checks, if they even got them, were a tiny fraction of what their homes were worth. In one documented case, a family got less than 1/3 of their home's appraised value. But because the whole project was shielded by this massive wall of official secrecy, they had absolutely no way to fight back in court. No appeal, no paper trail to demand justice.
Which brings us to the incredibly frustrating reality of where we stand right now. To this very day, no official federal agency has ever confirmed which theory is actually correct. The truth remains legally locked away. By law, the remaining unredacted records stay sealed for decades to come, keeping the absolute truth hidden from the public, from historians, and most importantly, from the descendants who lost everything.
So, after walking through all the evidence we've pieced together today, I want to leave you with this. What do you think is really down there? The next time you're driving past a quiet lake that seems just a little too still, remember that history doesn't always just drown. Sometimes it's buried on purpose. Was it a secret Cold War defense facility? A massive government fraud scheme? Or maybe something entirely unknown that we haven't even considered yet? I want you to weigh the evidence we've covered today and see what conclusion you draw. Thanks for exploring this mystery with me. Keep questioning the world around you, and I'll catch you in the next Explainer.
If you want more of these every week, hit subscribe. It's the only reason I get to keep telling these stories.